Hey, hey, this is Black Power Magic Hour. I'm Messiah Rhodes.
And I am Dr. Evil Genius. What's going on, player?
I'm good. I'm back after the weekend. I wanted to celebrate all countries, and I just wanted a colorful shirt to have all the colors, all matter. I was celebrating July 4th. How you been?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we should be celebrating. All countries matter, man.
Yeah. Just stay home and don't go outside. That's what's going on. Because you know what? The virus, if Jesse, the virus is happening. Pull up that cryon because we're gonna talk about the virus.
I'm actually trying to. Oh yeah, I just realized.
I'm getting all choppy.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I am across another planet. Well, my video is really choppy. Hopefully, my audio is pretty good. So we're gonna talk about the virus. Yeah. So pretty much, Major League Baseball is trying to open up. They're trying to do training right now. If Jesse pulls up this video right now, we can show you the training that's happening right now.
Is that it?
That's not the video at all. I mean, you can.
Yeah, that's not it.
It looks like a different time.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
no, what is this?
Definitely not it.
Yeah, no question. And I think
this is like from last year.
Oh my god.
It was like an interleague game.
That's weird.
One of the things I said in spring training is this is a tough team to
Oh yeah, he had a foul ball into the he had a foul ball into the crowd that hit I don't know if it hit an adult or a child, but that was pretty difficult to watch. But I guess the video that we were looking for, I guess just supposedly footage of during this they're calling it spring training 2.0. The one of the Yankees pitchers during a batting practice was pitching to Mike Judge, and he took a line drive in the head. Had to be taken to a hospital. As far as I know, he was released from the hospital.
Yeah. So pretty much the video was just to show that, bringing up kind of haphazardly everywhere, no matter what institution you're talking about, whether this is a major sports institute, a bagel store, everyone's dealing with waves, and you can see, everyone's rushing out there, getting hit in the face with balls right now. Other news. Yeah, in other news, pretty much the Brazilian president has been confirmed to have COVID-19.
He was trying to make it like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, Jesse played this video. Play this hype video. Hopefully this is right. Hopefully this doesn't play the bubonic plague documentary or something. So.
Both love Twitter and, by all appearances, hate wearing masks.
That link got totally
banned. Openly at odds with their nation's top doctors.
Trump is good. Bolsonaro is good.
And rely instead on the support of fans.
What does that have to do with anything? Bolsonaro is good,
and a lot of
but Biden is bad.
COVID-19 exists at all? It's an anxiety. It's a hoax.
He's talking mad in his face. Oh, chill.
If it exists, it is weak.
I don't care if we're outside.
He sounds just like his president, who, when asked about his nation passing China in fatalities, said, "So what? I mourn, but what do you want me to do? I can't work miracles." But the pot and pan protests,
he has the virus
he
now.
Goes on TV, are just one sign of a nation at odds with itself.
And I think that he actually went to get tested because he felt sick, which means that he is not asymptomatic, and it actually is a big deal.
Infections reported could be 12 to 16
I thought he's supposed to be super strong man that can
and yet
run in the
sewers. People in the ground like crap.
Uses his veto power to water
you see that street?
laws to protect the public.
That's
ones
recent.
That would make mask wearing mandatory in churches, schools, shops, and prisons.
It's crazy.
Out there in
it's
Brazil.
Crazy. Science is
I
being
agree,
ignored in this
Natalia,
government
it is
as it
crazy.
has never
Whoever
been
that
before.
voiceover is
Natalia
really
Pasternak
distracting.
is a
I want to laugh really
microbiologist who
hard.
lobbies for more science in government policy and is among the many who were horrified when Bolsonaro fired his respected health minister for advancing quarantines. A loyal general with no healthcare experience is now running the nation's pandemic response.
Yay!
So
more people that don't.
So
know what the fuck
Brazil's
they're
got to
doing.
deal with that. Yeah, it's hired a general who knows how to murder people to, fight the coronavirus. So what's going on now? So we're not alone in America with Trump. So don't feel like you're isolated back in the corner. We have allies in different places. Brazil is dealing with crazy stuff, and also we're not the only ones doing dumb stuff. If Jesse pulls up this video about the UK, they're breathing in each other's faces right now in bars. So Jesse plays this video.
Overseas tonight, a major test for the UK. Restaurants, cafes, and pubs packed with customers this weekend. Businesses reopening for the first time in 4 months. Numbers showing the EU and US heading in drastically different directions. The EU peaking in mid-March,
catch up to us, so
and now
we gotta open
well
those bars
below
up.
10,000 cases per day.
Hey, remember, we just talked about this last week about why we're not allowed to travel to Europe. They're not dumb.
Europe is
They're
trying
like,
to
we know
force
that
a return
Americans
to
are doing
normality,
American
but it's an
shit right
uneven
now.
and
Please
unpredictable
don't come
recovery.
here.
Infection rates in the UK are low, but with one of the highest mortality rates in the world, there's a lot on the line, as this weekend it relaxed most of its lockdown measures. Bars, restaurants, cafes, and the famous English pub all open to clearly excited customers.
As long as everyone's keeping their distance, we're going to have a few drinks and just enjoy it.
So that's what's going on.
To a bit of normality.
Yeah, because we need to drink alcohol. Alcohol
to
depresses your immune system. So that when we get the Rona, we can get as sick as possible.
They're wilding.
It's
not
in
over.
Another UK town, Leicester,
what are they doing?
Forced a localised lockdown there. Spain hoped to be over the worst, but tonight 70,000 more people are going into lockdown in the north of the country after a spike in cases there. That's on top of the 200,000 already quarantined in the region. As national lockdowns come to an end, Europe is now trying to control the virus through smaller local enforcement, leaving most wondering, where next?
As Europe continues to battle with these smaller outbreaks, American travellers are still banned from coming here. It's a delicate recovery that EU officials don't want to risk, given the surge in the US.
We can't have fun there even if you wanted to. So, it just shows you that, governments all over the world don't want to give people money. So just go back to work and hopefully, we don't die. That's what all these governments all over the world, they're doing the same kind of thing in a different flavor as you see, Europe, everywhere. It may seem cooler in Europe, but they're opening bars. What's up with that? So
yeah, it's just to me. I just look at the way that they're handling it, and they're debating on whether or not they should take a different stance, a different public-facing stance. Like, well, the coronavirus is here, so we should just deal with it. So that's what Trump wants to do, and it's like, well. Yeah. Do you really want to deal with overcrowded hospitals and not enough doctors to help and not enough equipment to treat people? And you're going to turn serious infections into unnecessary deaths? Is that how we're supposed to deal with it?
Yeah, people were like, rather not deal with a mask, but deal with a ventilator that puts a tube down your throat. Rather deal with that than a mask. But these numbers,
we'll put a mask on our throat. We'll deal with that.
Yeah, it's a horrifying. So I want to shift to some good news and really show the global stuff. If Jesse puts the global Earth news up, we're gonna do some global Earth news. Just travel around the world.
Yeah, I can't get over the redundancy of global Earth. I'm sorry. I just can't get over that shit.
I don't know.
We're going to the ATM machine.
so global. First, we're going to start because we're mad selfish, but Jesse pulls up this clip from the article from the New York Times. Black Lives Matter may be the largest movement in U.S. history. This is fucking crazy right now. To find out that so many people went out in the streets.
In world history.
A lot of white people. A lot of white people showing up in random towns and random cities has pumped up the numbers. The pandemic has jobs and nothing's happening and people getting shot in the streets. So this is what pumping up these numbers in this credible moment of solidarity that's happening in this country. It's pretty remarkable. Compared to the civil rights movement, it's like hundreds of thousands, which is like, you can't really compare that, to think about that this could be, we're witnessing history right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. Look at this time-lapse video.
Yeah, I just hope that, we don't get stuck, with people painting Black Lives Matter on streets and, voiceover actors quitting their jobs so that, people of color can get those jobs. I hope that we don't get stuck in all of that, and the push keeps going towards
just the surface pandering.
Yeah,
it's just like the surface pandering.
Black Lives marketing. Like I'm not with the Black Lives marketing. We need to make sure. Yeah, because the thing is, we talked about Aunt Jemima. Like she could still be the aunt of everybody's pancakes. Like I'm good with that, but we need to make sure that when it comes to what happens inside the court system and what happens when dealing with law enforcement, that there is some sort of equity, and if there isn't in certain situations, that justice is served equally across the board. That's all I want.
So speaking of that, this is Global Earth News. If Jesse pulls up what's going on in Kenya, pretty much Kenya, if you really seen this movement, Kenya is mad black people there. So if they're talking about police corruption, they're talking about other black people. So this is like context of institutions that internalize these white supremacy, like imperialism. You see it over the world in different ways. If Jesse pulls up the video rather than the article, so like 100 people showed up in Nairobi on Tuesday today because they're pretty much getting beaten up because of the coronavirus restrictions, because of their curfew. They're dealing with abuse in that way too. If Jesse plays this video, just a little while situation in Kenya. So they're protesting out there. There you go, army cops beating up people, beating up a kid. And you got.
I don't know. They look like they got their uniforms from Dr. J's on 3rd Ave.
Stop the killing in the ghetto.
Kill yourselves.
Oh wow, they got special issues.
So
that's pretty. You're talking about sexual abuse by police. If they are singling that out, that is a major problem.
Yeah. So like you can see that this is to be continued when it comes to this movement against police brutality, police corruption in these institutions is really going to spell out way
sexual
bigger.
violence.
Yeah. So we had an interview that we did. She's in Spain, Barcelona. Jennifer. She pretty much, this is a terrible Spanish translation of the article from Google, but pretty much there's a Black Lives Matter, Black African and Afro descent community that's rising up in Barcelona, Spain. And we did a quick chat with her because right now it's like 3 a.m. in the morning, so she can't do an interview at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, but me and Dr. Virginius, we chatted with her, and Jesse could pull up the video. You can get a good look at what's happening in the world when it comes to Black people, African and Afro descent around the world. Jennifer Molina Martinez here from Black Lives Matter, Barcelona, Spain.
Jennifer
How you doing
Molina
today? Thank you for coming late. Yeah, thank you for coming today. Yeah.
Come from Spain. My job. I'm journalist. I am the second generation, people that have in their 30s. We are the second generation because Black people in Spain arrives in 70s and mostly from Guinea Equatorial. Guinea Equatorial is a country in Africa, was an ex-colony of Spain. So then in the 70s, a lot of people from Guinea came to Spain. So this was the first generation. And then we are the people that are in the 30s. We are the second generation, and there is a third and fourth generation now. So a lot of Black people that arrives here in the 70s married with white people and have mixed people, mixed childs like me. And we don't have this Black community very united because we have a very diverse Blackness here. You know, there is a lot of Senegalese people, Nigerian people, mixed people born and raised here. I'm mixed Cuban. There is lot of origins, so we don't share the culture. Because of the colonization in Africa, there is this stigmatization, okay? Because African people, the African woman, for example, they have the treatments to make the skin more clear. And so when they arrive here in the 70s,
you're saying black women, African women is that a problem in Spain of Black women, African women bleaching its skin? Is that a problem in Spain? Or
no, it's not a problem. It's not very. They do in Africa. I don't think.
Okay.
It's here when they are up here, it's different, and a lot of women date with a white man, and in Africa there is a lot of racism because the internalization of races.
Yeah.
So, but here is different. Growing up here, being Black means that you never be recognized as a Spanish person. You never have reference in the books, in the movies, you never watch. You never can see Black people represented in nothing. Our reference are American movies, like Will Smith, Eddie Murphy. This is our reference. We didn't grow up with Black people because I have 33 years old and people still ask me, where are you from? In North America, you have this identity that you are a Black American person, but we don't have this in Spain. We are just Black and Spanish. You cannot be Black and Spanish in the same identity. And this is what we're fighting. We're struggling with this. We are doing this demanding. Our Black Lives Matter is about this. It's about our identity, our right to be Spanish, because we are Spanish. But we are in the very, very, very beginning. We have to explain all the time what is the racism, what it means to be Black, because people don't know this here in Spain. It's very different in England. It's different. It's better.
How is it different?
Yeah.
Well, they have this. It's difficult to explain. They have reference. They appears in the movies, in the ads, in everything. In the universities.
Alice Elba.
So it looks like there's a little bit more equality there.
Because there's a lot of more politics of race diversity. In Spain, we are now demanding this. We are now doing this because we never had this in the politics or in universities. We never had this contemplation of the diversity race, because we are few people, a small community that is growing up and growing up and growing up, and now we really need to be recognized as Black Spanish people. with other cultures, because we have more cultures here in Spain.
When it comes to Black Lives Matter, it's almost like you're giving like the ultimate example. You're saying that, you know, when we're here, we're not like, they don't see us. We want to be seen. Black Lives Matter is almost literally like what you're trying to say, like that when it comes to being Spanish and Black, those two separate things, and you want those things to be seen together. You want to be seen, and it's crazy. And before the law enforcement part, I just want to say, because Black Lives Matter kind of started from the law enforcement, like how did you get involved with the Black Lives Matter stuff in the first place? How did you even get with that organizing, protesting and stuff?
How this movement arrived to Spain, or how I personally
how what you're doing,
Actually, I want to hear both
with the Black Lives Matter.
Well, we don't say Black Lives Matter. We say we are the African, Black, and Afro-descendant community, but it's the same. We're united with this movement. I've been involved. I don't know. I think all my life before the Black Lives Matter exists, because I grew up, you know, with all the white people. I was the only person in my university, Black person. I studied journalist, and I was the only Black person. So the struggle, you have to do this struggle all the time. You have to explain yourself all the time. So when here in Barcelona, for example, in 2014 or 15, we start a movement with other people, Black people. A movement it's called Black Barcelona, and we, for the first time in my life, I feel united with other Black Spanish people and doing our culture, explaining our culture, doing things, doing parties, taking the streets of our music, because here in Spain, white DJs are playing the Black music, and you know, for the first time,
so surreal. Yeah, especially out in Spain, it must be like wild. Yeah.
And maybe we don't have this kind of violence that you have in the United States. I don't really, when I see this in the movie, in the TV or something, I don't want to.
You say it's a movie. It feels like a movie. It feels like a crazy horror movie.
Exactly. I don't really have the feeling to go there. I don't really want to go to America being Black, because I'm really scared. But we don't have this kind of violence.
Yeah, I just want to know, because, you know, you're talking about the differences between people who are native to Spain and those who have their roots in Africa, and how you feel that mostly just invisible, or too visible, as in there's too much of a separation where you're not honored as Spanish people, even if you're born on Spanish soil and you speak the language, et cetera, right? So when you look at how the law is enforced in Spain, are there any notable differences between how people who come from Africa are policed? And is there a difference between how they are policed and how Spaniards are policed?
Here we have the problem with the people who comes from Africa, the immigration. This is a huge problem. This is the whole racism is in Spain, how really is in Spain, the violence and the racism. Because we have this laws, I don't know to say the name in English, the strange foreign laws, that when they arrive in these boats, that they usually fall in the sea and they die a lot. And we have these racist laws that they let die them a lot in the sea. And when they arrive here, they put it in the jails, but it's not the same jail that Spanish people, it's a different jails, only for immigrants. You cannot go there as a journalist, because I tried to go there and they don't let us.
Well, they don't have the same rights?
Close. No, it's like Guantanamo. No, it's not the same right, because they are not citizens. They are not persons. They don't have the rights that I have or you have. They are just people, immigrant. It's not the same. It's two levels.
Yeah, we have a similar problem here too with our immigration enforcement, where, you know, they keep them in you know, they were putting the kids in cages and separating them from their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the question of these immigrants is that we have our parents are immigrants, so we can really relate with these people because our Black people, our African people, are our parents, our our childrens are the new generations that are coming here, and they are us. We are all the Black community. So we even we are Spaniards. We cannot just look to another place. We are the same person. We are the same people. I have the lucky to be born here, but it could be not.
Right.
So this is the most important problem with the racism in Spain.
Well, my next question would be, I guess, to clarify my previous question, would be among Spanish citizens. Among Spanish citizens, the Black Spanish citizens and the white Spanish citizens, do police treat you differently? And how? And if so, how do they treat you differently?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And they treat you different if you are mixed. That if you're Black, or totally Black, if you're white, you're Black man or woman. Yes, police stops people like 42 times more than white people.
42
times.
42 times.
42 times more to a Black
that's
person.
That's a country rate,
or
that's the rate in Barcelona, or that's the whole of Spain?
In Spain. And there is a lot more violence in Black people, especially immigrant people that are selling products in the street, looking for the life. Is lots of violence in the light of the day, and people do nothing, and nobody cares. Nobody cares because they are not treated as a persons. But the difference I can see is that here we don't have guns, so the violence don't increase. Like it's very difficult that a Black person being shot by a police because we have no guns. We have not the presumption that we will shot the police.
Hooray! Your cops? Do you cops have guns?
Yeah, how
the
are the
cops
cops
have guns, but it's very difficult. It's very rare that a cop use the gun. It have to be very very violent situation, and even in this violent situation, they don't do this.
They bring SWAT teams to like people playing violins in this country. Like they overuse of force. In the United States is pretty obvious to a lot of people. When it comes to use of force and military weaponry, it's just like a normal thing now in the United States. And here you say that cops don't have those things. It's like we're trying to tell people that here, maybe cops shouldn't have those things here either. And it's like a huge argument here about it. It's interesting to see that over there it's just like the normal culture, and it kind of almost makes the racism less crazy than it could be, than it could be in some ways. I don't know, the police not having
because it's one thing to be invisible. Right. It's one thing to be invisible in your society. It's another to be afraid to get into some type of interaction with the police, fearing that you might not live because the police themselves are undisciplined.
Exactly. Yeah. Black people here have scared of the police, but it's not the same scare. It's not the scare that you're gonna die. It's the scare that maybe they beat you, maybe they report you, and if you don't have documents, they bring you back to the Africa. Is this kind of scare? Or maybe if you are a Black woman with no men, there is a lot of Black women with no men and children, maybe they're gonna take your children because there is more more percentage of taking the babies of Black women than white women. If you have an African culture, they always gonna shame or think that you are not doing good as a mom because you don't have the Spanish culture. This is a way of racism as well, but culture thing.
Right. It's almost like an erasure of the African culture by saying that your style of parenting doesn't rise to the level of ours. And if you don't do what we do, Exactly. So it's weird how they want you to assimilate to their culture, but then they don't want to actually recognize you as part of the culture, whether you conform to their ideals or not.
Exactly. Here in Spain is one thing that white people tells you a lot is, okay, you are okay. I accept you because you are integrated. Integrated means you speak with Spanish accent. Yeah, you don't have you are not African. You are not Muslim. You're not like you are like me. Even you are black or brown.
Exceptional Negro. Yeah.
Exactly, the black excellence. You have to be very good. No.
Yeah, when I was growing up, anytime that I found myself in a white environment, they treated me, I guess, extra well in some cases because of the way that I speak. Even as I became an internet personality, before I revealed who I was, most people thought I was white. When I lived in black communities, they called me, derogatory names, suggesting that I was whiter than them because of the way that I speak. So you get treated differently. And in some ways, you don't really belong in one culture or the other. You're just in this weird in between where you don't really fit in either way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just want to ask a couple of questions before we wrap up. I just want to know what's the music scene out there. This feels like the parties must be super duper lit.
Yeah, before, like 4 or 6 years ago, most of the parties, the black parties, was run by white people. But now there is a lot of new generation that black people in 20s that they take everything. They do their own parties, Afrobeat parties, and African parties, and and now is growing up a new movement of black community that I really wanted to have 20s again, because I'm really proud of this new generation, because I didn't live this. I was involved of white and all white, and when I see this and go to these parties, I'm really like is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
but it's everything is new.
Yeah, even if all this crazy stuff happened when the coronavirus and Donald Trump doing crazy stuff, it feels so optimistic to see like people so young like being so bold and like saying like we want a better future than this shitty thing right now. It's really good feeling to see it happen out there.
Yes.
What is the level of hope for the future as far as the culture in Spain? Do you feel like that the country is moving in a direction that's more inclusive and respectful towards other cultures, or do you believe that that whatever change that may be looking like could come may just be more surface level, where they pretend to want to integrate you but not really? Do you have you know what I mean? Do you have hope that in the future things are going to get better for in the descendants of Africans and African immigrants in Spain?
It's difficult to answer because a lot of things have improved before the 90s, and now it's a lot better, huge better, but there is also a lot of people dying and in these jails, these special jails for immigrants. So I feel like in two feelings. Like I'm very I have hope because I really think if I have a child now, a black child, I can raise it in a better world for him. But at the same time, there is a lot of racism, a new kind of racism, because we have this ultra rights growing up as well, like Donald Trump. We have these people like.
So Trump is affecting your culture too.
Right.
It's affecting the environment.
Like kind of neo-fascist tendencies.
Yeah,
happening.
White
absolutely.
supremacy.
Yeah.
But it's not white supremacy in Spain. It's different because there is black people in this movement as well. There is. We have
they got Candace Owens over there. They got a Spanish.
It's black people.
Of Candace Owens.
It's black people. It's the same thing. There's black people in the white supremacy movement, but they just don't know they're a part of it. So
No,
I guess yeah.
In the faces,
yeah, some of them know.
Fascism?
Huh?
Fascism.
Neo-fascist.
There is a group of neo-fascists that is now in the government, not running the government, but in the parliament, in the government, and they have black people in this organization, and they are not. They say that they are not racist. Yeah, because of the story of Spain, because the colonies, colonized.
Yeah.
Because these African people that were in Africa when Spain have this country, they feel so proud to be Spain, not to be African. And there
so
is
they
this
like the
movement.
opposite spectrum. There's like it's like the opposite spectrum of nationalism, like hyper nationalism. You know.
Exactly, because in this black fight, we have to fight also. It's not only the skin color. We have to fight also with the class. The class is very, very important because these black people that are in the fascist groups, they are rich, not rich, or they are in a huge level. So they don't want to be like other black people that are working in the services. They are superior from us. They are closer
upper
to
middle
white
class.
people.
Yeah,
they're like
So
the
we have
managerial class. Yeah,
exactly. And what my opinion? This is my opinion. We have to fight for a equal war between races. We have to fight the system as well, because the system, the economic system, are dividing people in races, genders, and race and classes. So if we don't fight the system, we cannot fight the racism, the sexism, the class. It's a pack. We cannot do just okay, black people.
So what links can Jennifer? What links can people follow? What's going on with BM? Follow your work. What links can people go to before we wrap up?
But they can follow our Instagram, our Twitter, and our web is not published yet, but it's gonna be published next week. Website.
All right. Well, we'll make sure that those links go up in the description, so that people can follow everything that you're doing over there. I think it's a great thing that you're doing, and it really shows that this is not a figment of our imagination. These kinds of things that are going on in societies around the world, there is definitely similarities of what black people are going through. And, we didn't just, create these things. These are things that we're noticing, and they're pretty similar, everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
So thank you so much.
Have a good night. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
So bye.
That was wonderful. Bye.
Bye.
So boom.
The fuck you doing?
It's it's election season, and we got to show all of the kind of other candidates that are running. We have to be a Democratic nation allegedly, so we got to show all the candidates. So we're gonna show the first candidate, which is Jesse. Roll this clip.
It seems every day there's a new headline, a new battle between the Republican and Democratic parties. But KPLC's Teresa Schmidt reports on a somewhat unknown party that seems to be gaining traction with more and more voters.
Some Americans say they hold their nose to vote for president because they cannot fully support either mainstream party platform. But the American Solidarity Party believes they combine the best of both. Activist Thad Crouch says they're in favor of everything that increases human dignity and against all that's dehumanizing.
I felt like a political orphan for decades because I couldn't find a party that matched what I want. And when I found out about the American Solidarity Party, I was thrilled to find a party that could both be pro-life on abortion and the death penalty and work for peace and climate change. And I finally felt at home.
Brian Carroll from California is the party's 2020 presidential nominee. He admits he likely won't be the next president, but says the party is growing and will be on more state ballots than ever.
There's a serious reshuffling of the political landscape. Both political parties have people jumping ship and going independent. And we believe that we don't have a lot of new ideas. We have new combinations of ideas. And we feel that we will be attractive to many who are leaving each of the other parties.
Carroll and Crouch are attending the Rehumanize conference in New Orleans, where they'll find many people with similar views.
So that's the American Solidarity Party, and they're going to be running for president. So the thing is about,
I think it's like super important to recognize, because I don't think that this Amish dude is going to get elected. I think that we both know that. However, I think that it really is showing that it's really a sign of the times where like people are just like, listen, like, we're not doing this. We're not going to go with this one guy that has dementia or this other guy that has some other neurological issue. You know, they're both sexually assaulting women and girls all over the place. You know, neither one of them really understand what's going on or what we really want, or what they don't really try to appeal to our actual concerns. So people are now looking for a third outlet. And I think that it definitely is a movement that needs to continue to expand, if for no other reason to respect the voters that are there. Because a lot of people are like, well, if you don't vote for one, then you have to vote for the other. And it's like, well, maybe there are other alternatives.
Yeah, there are alternatives. I mean, the American Solidarity Party is actually on 10. It's actually about 12 states that could be on the. You can actually vote for Brian if you want to. Amish Paradise Man, you want to vote for him, you can do that. Jesse pulls up the next candidate. Look at this candidate.
Blankenship has officially announced his candidacy for the Constitution Party nomination for president. Blankenship says he held the official announcement until today to honor veterans. Blankenship is the former CEO of Massey Energy and served a year in prison for mine safety violations. Blankenship says his campaign is about doing what President Trump promised he'd do but hasn't, and bringing both parties together.
So that's illegal. If you committed a felony, you're supposed to be eliminated from presidential contention. You know, and I believe that's part of the law, is it not? If you spent a year, year in prison, you committed a felony. And if you committed a felony, it's almost like what is that? I don't understand that.
He's a great candidate for president according to the Constitution Party. Because he actually ran, if Jesse plays his other clip, he actually ran for like a senator or like a few years ago.
Yeah, I think you're still allowed to do
Mitch
that.
McConnell has created millions
you're allowed
of jobs
to run
for
Senate
people.
with a felony on your record,
Mitch
but not
has
for
gotten
president.
rich.
This is Don Blankenship. He's the Trump-like Republican candidate running for Senate in West Virginia, who even Donald Trump can't get behind.
So he ran. So he ran for Senate, so now he's running for president. When the people died in his mine shaft that he runs and stuff like that. So those are the candidates that are running for some of the candidates. We're gonna see a lot of them over the next few months, and we're gonna like talk about all of them. So people have a choice between Biden and or Blankenship, felony man. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think that these guys are going to move the needle by any stretch of the imagination, but they are a signal. It's almost like a dog whistle that the American people are starting to get that feeling like they're not forced to do one thing or the other, that they're looking for other options. And, you know, maybe 200 years from now, we might have, you know, several political parties instead of just the two that we have.
I mean, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, we need to break up this. We need more parties. I mean, I feel like I guess it shows you the only people who have resources is old white guys to run to run these like political parties. We need more diverse people. That's what we need. And I think if more diverse people, even with less resources, ran for president, it would be galvanizing and not be like weird, like, wanting like everyone to be in workers' camps, outrageous stuff. I mean, actually talk to people. I think it's possible now with the internet, with how GoFundMe, totally is possible. But at the moment, we just have these weirdos. So hopefully people get inspired by these weirdos and you have normal, less weird people run for president. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think that the people who are running that are running for the Democratic and the Republican Party, I believe they're the weirdos, because like the other guy said, we're not bringing any like, but we're not, like you said, we're not bringing any new ideas to the table. Is that we're trying to come up with a political ideology that more people identify with, because a lot of people feel like they're forced to play for the blue team or the red team, but they may really think that, hey, economically I'm a Republican and I got to stick with these people, but I'm not running with this racist shit, and vice versa. So I don't think that the guys on the outside are the weirdos. It's the guys that are in the mainstream that are the weirdos. Party. You said what?
Lying to poor people all the time, like Democratic Party does.
Because that's what it comes down to. The Democratic Party lies to poor people, and the Republican Party lies to poor people. They're just targeting different skin colors with their lies.
Yeah. So, like, speaking of lies, if Jesse puts up bad cops.
1, 2, 3. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Bad cops. 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 Yes, so many cops are on the tick. What do you expect when they use tear gas and tanks? Whether in a car or on a horse, cops don't mind using excessive force. Bad cops, bad cops. What you gonna do? Bad cops, bad cops. What you gonna do? Bad cops, bad cops. What you gonna do? Bad cops, bad cops.
This is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, I just love how that is just so awfully off key. Like, it's so off key.
Because bad cops, everything's bad about it.
It's also bad singing, but I'm good with it. That horse did not want to step on those people.
No, not at all. Like, fuck. So what's going on right now in New York City? Jesse pulls up this article. The NYPD is like already lying and saying, "Oh, you use money," even though it's not really cut. They're saying they blame it on this rise of violence. They're losing whatever, a couple of $1 billion they're going to lose from the budget. They're complaining about it, even though the budget cuts literally just happened like 3 days ago. That's just impossible for these budget cuts to like all of a sudden affect their policing. It's total bullshit. They do it all the time when different things happen.
The budget cuts probably don't even they don't take immediate effect anyway. So people are so thirsty to try to steer the narrative in one way or the other that, if you start getting people talking about what's really happening out there, then these people look even less credible than they already do. Like, you're really trying to take the tragedies of all of these people that are being shot. Oh, that's because you're defunding the police, but you're not defunded yet. Yeah. So do your goddamn job.
Yeah, those are because there's a lot of guns in the street. There's no jobs in the street. People are pushing these black markets, people pushing these worlds. It's not because cops are getting tank helicopters. Like, it's always this thing that always uses argument all the time. Whenever protests happen, we don't want you to beat up black people and kill people. All of a sudden, black on black crime. This is what they always try to say, and they're doing it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's crazy that everybody is so scared of defunding the police department. But again, they reeled back department spending to Bloomberg era spending. Like, we didn't have the Wild West when Mike Bloomberg was the mayor. In fact, people thought that things were a little bit too uptight. So if you can't do your job with $5 billion, perhaps we should hire somebody else.
Yeah. So I really want to go because like whenever they talk about things with police, Blue Lives Matter, they never ever actually talk about cops being killed. It's always a reaction to when black people protest. This is when they talk about Blue Lives Matter. This is when it happens. And I want to pull up the story. A cop actually died right after George Floyd died. This cop died. Pretty much Jay Johnson, a Detroit police officer, he pretty much responded to a domestic violence call at the end of a shift, which if you know police officers answering the call at the end of a shift, it's like the worst thing you can do at the end of a shift is to report to a call. But he did it because of domestic violence dispute, and he was killed and later died from his wounds on May 31st, 2020. No one's heard of this black officer. In fact, the family struggled financially when he was killed, when he was injured from his wounds and they had to take care of him. They were struggled financially to take care of him. But you never heard the story. You never heard about, help this black cop. Oh, nothing like that. There's always a reaction to protests. That's a perfect example right there. He died May 31st, 2020. And you ain't heard no cop gander about it. Responding to a domestic violence dispute, protecting the woman from being killed, and he was murdered on duty, but you don't hear nothing about it. So that's one story we talk about right now.
It's not enough to drive a narrative where they want to go, where they want it to go. And, so every time I hear about Blue Lives Matter, but it's like, okay, are we going across the gamut with that? When I got to hear about the NRA talking about gun rights, well, how come you didn't speak up for Philando Castile when he did everything right and was still killed as a legal registered gun owner that did exactly what he was supposed to do? We didn't hear them coming out for him. So are you really for the Second Amendment, or only when it applies to white people? Are you really for blue lives, or is it only when it applies to white officers? When you don't start representing the people in those fraternities the same way, now you're asking us to ask these questions.
A bondman on Twitch likes our search. He's liking our search right now. But I really want to show how bullshit Blue Lives Matter is. This might be a little controversial, but we're going to talk about since the George Floyd murder, how many cops died. We're going to talk about each story. So if you pull up Sunday, May 31st, you just pull up June 2nd. Jesse, you pull up this video real quick if you have it, of a sergeant being killed. So pretty much this falls into the narrative, crazy black people doing stuff, but we're gonna show you different stories. It's a local ass news channel in Alabama, pretty much. So they're showing you cheesy ads. So this officer was killed by two people. Two raggedy black people. June 2nd.
Oh,
never heard of them.
Raggedy.
June 2nd. If Jesse pulls up June 2nd, so we don't have any audio for it, might as well move on to June 2nd. Another officer was killed, and this was actually done an ambush by white supremacist boogaloo, trained ex-military men killed this officer. If Jesse plays this clip, we watch a Jeep commercial before we play. I think we always got to deal with some capitalism before we show it in time, even though they're getting paid for it. They're getting paid with this Jeep commercial.
Why are you mad? You drive a Jeep.
Doesn't seem like they have audio either. But this is another example of.
Man, that's unfortunate. I definitely wanted to hear that.
Yeah, he was killed by, I guess, white identifying people because they were part of a white supremacist group. So this was a killing that happened on June 2nd. There was not that much media. Wasn't that much about it. So it wasn't that much, discussion of it. But when black people protest, all of a sudden, it's crying. We pull up the next video, June 18th, 2020, Jesse. All the videos not gonna have audio, but we're gonna play it anyway. This white lady killed a white cop. Hear about it? No. Did you talk about defunding the police is bad? No, we didn't hear about it because it's not part of the propaganda. They don't give a shit. It's when black people stand up and protest. This is when they complain about the cops losing money and boo-hooing. Next video, June 30th. If Jesse puts that up. Another officer, he was killed by just like a random crazy white guy in the parking lot. He was just killed. Oh, that was the next one. But this guy was killed also by a white man. He was killed. Officer was killed in Oklahoma by a white man. Oh, the new Bronco.
They're trying to sell us fucking OJ trucks.
So in Tucson, he was killed by a white man. If you pull up the next video, July 4th, there was another shooting in a home parking lot. It's a recent killing. This officer was also killed by a white man. There was but you didn't hear about that. All you heard about was black crime on the news. You didn't hear any of this. This happened on July 4th. We have to pull this video from ABC News with no audio because it's not available anywhere because it's not being reported well. So when you talk about propaganda, this is an example of propaganda. Yes, being a police officer is dangerous. Sometimes you might get shot, but that's not what they're talking about when they're talking about defund the police. Blue Lives Matter.
71%
That's not
of
when they say that.
Killed
It's not
in the line of duty are killed by white people, white men more specifically. So we're talking about 7 out of every 10. But when the traffic stop is made, they fear one more than the other when they're more likely to be killed in the opposite situation. So when the numbers don't match up with how they're acting, it just is hard to say that it's anything other than racial bias in the absence of other in the absence of other evidence.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, since George Floyd protests, a lot of the police officers who were murdered on the line of duty were murdered by white people. But that's not what reported on. That's not why they want to not defund the police. It's just part of it, and it's really frustrating in the narrative, in some ways. But I feel like this movement is really confronting it in some ways.
Yeah, but I think that people are not really explaining they're not really explaining the defund the police movement effectively or even accurately, because the way that they're talking about it, it's almost like they're just trying to disband every police organization and just have the purge running 24/7. When in reality it is, hey, let's demilitarize the police, actually bring them back to just being constables and being peace officers and not having so much responsibility on their plate in addition to being law enforcement officers. They shouldn't also be, leaving tickets for this and ticketing jaywalking and trying to talk people out of committing suicide. All of these things that require a lighter touch. They go out into the street looking to do their jobs as far as enforcing the law.
Demilitarize is a better narrative.
Yeah, just demilitarize the police. I think that just makes more sense.
No, I want the cops to go away.
Let's fund mental health. Yeah, let's fund mental health. Let's try to get programs that try to pull people out of poverty, because that's where the crime is. The crime comes out of poverty. So if you divert money from turning the United States into a military state and then turning it into a truly free country where people they're not just free from being harassed by the police, but they're also free from the constraints of poverty, then you're in a much better situation where the cops can just do what it is that they really signed up to do. They didn't sign up to be social workers. They didn't sign up to be referees in domestic disputes. They didn't sign up for any of that stuff. How about just let them do their job? And I think the cops would actually be happy about it if the movement was talked about properly.
Yeah, their job is to walk into the ocean and never come back. That's their job.
Wow,
So,
you wildin'.
Yeah,
you wildin', son.
Yeah, just march into it. Like, that's what I feel. But I think there's levels of change that needs to happen before we get to an ideal situation with the police in America. But calling back to the interview we did with Jennifer, Jennifer, she said from Barcelona, she said she's scared to travel to America because the videos she see of the United States, the brutality. Like our last interview we did, she a person is afraid to come here. Black people of African descent are sometimes afraid to come to this country. It's like a travel advisory if you're black to come to the United States. It's like it's an international problem at that point. It's not just a domestic problem. I feel if it affects everyone on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to people all over the planet, we're not just talking about black people or even African people. If they've done numerous polls polling Asian people, and you see it in Japan and you see it in South Korea. That's one of the things they point to is, oh yeah, they abuse black people in the United States, and they're very quick to acknowledge that. Like around the world, people look at the United States as basically a country full of hypocrites, because we talk about human rights this and human rights that, and we go into other people's countries, but then people are looking back at us and it's like, well, look at what you're doing to black people. Let's talk about that. People around the world, they ain't stupid.
It's crazy. No, they're not. So speaking of which, we're going to end with some international flavor, Jesse. So good day. We're going to be back Thursday night at 10 o'clock. If you're West Coast, tune in. And around the world, East Coast, tune in. act.tv Genius Drive, we're going to be back. But we want to play this clip real quick to end Tuesday night with some international flavor, some karate and some Latin dance kind of. I don't know what's going on in this video. I found it, and it's makes no sense to me. So Jesse, you can play it so we can go out of here. We will play out with some Donald Trump tweet saying, this looks like he has Tourette. Yeah, there you go. So here's some fun flavor right now. Jesse, play the clip.
Yeah, that's a love language right there.
So there you have it. I'm Aside Rhodes.
And I'm Dr. Evil. We'll see you on Thursday night, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific.